When you think of early modern colonial empires, your mind won't often think of Latvia as being a coloniser. Yet, as will surprise many of you, the Latvians did give it a go. Well, sort of. Latvia technically didn't exist then. Instead, it was a territory called Courland, whose people, the Curonians, spoke Latvian. Barring the mandatory ruling German minority, obviously. So what exactly was Courland and what was it like? It was nominally a puppet state of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and whilst its duke did declare fealty to the King of Poland, the duchy was, for the most part, free to do as it pleased. It was an important exporting state across the Baltic Sea, and especially given its size, it sported a very impressive navy. As of the 1640s, the Curonians had expanded from just trading in the Baltics to trading across the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. There's conflicting accounts of when they first tried their hand at colonisation, but the Duke of Courland, Jakob Kettler, had had a keen interest in colonisation since the 1630s. He'd been in talks with Dutch and Swedish bankers over colonising the island of Tobago and had negotiated many trade agreements with colonial powers in the New World. As such, he was confident not only of getting safe passage there, but also of being able to grow and maintain a colonial foothold in the Caribbean. Courland made several attempts at colonising Tobago, and the first likely occurred in 1639. Now, they weren't the first. The Spanish, the Dutch and the English had all tried before to settle the island and all had failed, hence why Tobago was known at the time as the Island of Despair. The English then approached Jacob and offered him a crack at it, and so Jacob sent over 200 people, mostly criminals, to Tobago. The natives attacked the settlement they created and the colony ended in failure. 3 years later, Jacob gave it another go, this time using Dutch settlers, and much like the first time, it failed. Things weren't going too well for Jacob and the Curonians, but another colonial opportunity presented itself in 1651. Gambia. Whilst taking an active role in the transatlantic slave trade, Courland was granted a small colony in Gambia by its king in return for annual payments. And after this, Jacob was sure to push the idea of maintaining good relations with the natives. Jacob gave colonising Tobago one last try in 1654, but this time he took the lessons he'd learned over the previous decade and a half and utilised them properly. First of all, he sent over 120 soldiers to Tobago to protect the colony from both the natives and any foreign powers. Second, he recruited settlers from many other nations as well as Courland itself. And third, he made sure that efforts were made to accommodate the natives and they were given legal rights there. The colony was settled by thousands of people and was renamed New Courland, with its capital being Jakobstad. The Curonian approach's success is proved by the fact that within 4 years the colony's population sat at 25,000 people, with about 5,000 of those being Curonians. The rest had pledged their loyalty to Jacob and Courland, and of the 25,000 people who lived there, roughly 13,000 were slaves from Courland's Gambian colony. And so it seemed that the Curonian approach to colonisation had worked. Which raises the question, why wasn't there a continuous Latvian-speaking population in the Caribbean then? Well, in 1656, Courland, as part of the numerous ongoing Swedish-Polish wars, was invaded, and in 1658, Jacob was captured. Whilst he was imprisoned, the Dutch enticed the Curonian garrison to revolt, and so Jacob then signed the colony over to them. In 1664, now no longer able to project power overseas, Courland ceded its Gambian colony to England, and thus the short-lived Latvian attempt at colonialism was over. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching, with extra thanks to these patrons you can see on screen for their continued support. And an extra special thanks to James Bisonet, David Archaeologist, Azarka Flash, Danny Maloney, Party Boyko, Coolin Castleman, Rob Waterhouse, Chris Wicker, Gustav Swan, David Silverman, Winston Kaywood, Christian Cheke, Maggie Paxkowski, Lexi Schwinn, Anthony Beckett, Robert Wetzel, Sky Chappelle, Ike, Spinning 3 Plates, Aaron the White and Michael Reynolds.